On our newscast tonight, the Korean cabinet passes 3 special laws related to April's ferry tragedy. They will help expedite investigations and form new agencies to ensure such incidents never occur again. One of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's top aides arrived in Moscow. Is he laying the groundwork for a meeting between the leaders of Russia and North Korea? Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe circles the wagons as Japan falls into recession. He is widely expected to delay unpopular tax hikes and announce a snap election to rally support for his original economic blueprint. These and more coming up, an early edition at 6.
It's 6 p.m. on Tuesday, November 18th here in Korea, brought to you live from Seoul. I'm Na-hyun Gyo.
And I'm Daniel Che. Thank you for joining us. A set of 3 bills, all related to April's ferry disaster that killed or left more than 300 people missing, were approved by the cabinet this morning.
That's right. Under the new laws, 2 new government organizations will be set up and a special committee will thoroughly investigate the sinking. Our Kim Myung-gil has the details.
The cabinet passed 3 special bills on this Tuesday, all related to April's ferry disaster. The first was the amended Government Organization Act, which sets up 2 new ministry-level agencies under the Prime Minister's office. One will oversee disaster and safety management, the other will oversee government personnel matters and lead reforms of public offices. President Park Geun-hye tapped former Navy Admiral Park In-young to head the new safety agency and Lee Geum-myeon to lead the agency responsible for the government's personnel management. The second bill passed Tuesday by the cabinet was the so-called Seoul Ferry Law, which sets up a special investigative committee composed of 17 members that will launch on January 1st. For a period of up to 18 months, the committee will look into the causes of the ferry disaster that killed or left missing 304 people. They will have the legal authority to summon witnesses and appoint a special prosecutor who will investigate and indict those found responsible for the tragedy. The last law passed was the so-called Yubyong Law, named after the deceased de facto owner of the Seoul ferry. The law gives the government more authority to go after and confiscate illegally obtained wealth by individuals or companies. It states that the perpetrator and the third parties involved in an unlawful act can be subject to asset seizures. The law is aimed at holding individuals or companies accountable for tragedies that cause a great number of casualties. The 3 special laws are aimed at making Korea a safer place to live and punishing those found responsible for lax safety management. Kim Myung-gil, Arirang News.
Now, Choi Ryong-hae, who is widely seen as North Korea's number 2, is now in Russia as regime leader Kim Jong-un's special envoy. Observers are carefully watching for when and whether Choi will meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Hwang Ji-hye reports.
Choi Ryong-hae, a high-ranking member of North Korea's ruling Workers' Party and one of leader Kim Jong-un's closest aides, gets on a plane to Russia. High-level officials see him off at the airport.
Choi Ryong-hae has left Pyongyang to visit Russia on a special plane on November 17th.
After being forced to return to the North Korean capital due to an unspecified problem with the plane, Choi arrived in Moscow in the early hours of Tuesday morning local time. During his 8-day visit to Russia, there's speculation Choi might hold talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin and pass on a personal letter from Kim Jong-un. If that meeting materializes, eyes will turn to whether Choi's trip could lead to a bilateral summit between Kim and Putin.
A North Korea-Russia summit will mark an important event, one that signifies Pyongyang's deteriorating relationship with its traditional ally, China. It would also be a clear demonstration of the North's discontent over Chinese President Xi Jinping visiting Seoul without making any plans to go to Pyongyang.
North Korea's nuclear program is also expected to be on the table during Che's visit, along with ways to boost economic and political ties between the two countries. The South Korean government is also closely watching how the visit proceeds.
It looks like North Korea is actively engaging in diplomatic activities while the international community strengthens its cooperation over the North's human rights issues and nuclear program. But the specific purpose of Che's visit and its potential achievements remain unclear.
Analysts say the visit also gives Russia a way out of its deepening diplomatic isolation as it continues to be blamed for its role in the Ukraine crisis. Hwang Ji-ae, Arirang News.
The United Nations is inching closer to adopting its strongest resolution to date on North Korea's human rights abuses. A UN committee is expected to pass it by a wide margin on Tuesday, after which time it will be passed on to the plenary UN Assembly. But as our Hwang Sung-hee reports, some last-minute jockeying by an ally of Pyongyang may end up softening the language.
The UN General Assembly's third committee will vote on a resolution on North Korea's human rights violations in New York on Tuesday, after which time it would be put to a vote at a plenary UN Assembly next month. Now, the EU-led resolution calls on the UN Security Council to take the North Korean leadership to the International Criminal Court for its human rights violations for the first time. Now, this is the most strongly worded resolution since 2005, which is why North Korea has been especially vocal against it. One possible obstacle to the smooth adoption of the resolution could be Cuba's efforts to block it. Cuba submitted its own version of the resolution last week that removed the ICC referral. Instead, it recommends the international community resolve the issue through dialogue. UN human rights investigator Marzuki Darusman advises against the deletion of any clauses.
Any removal of the accountability clauses would affect a setback in efforts to pursue accountability.
A senior official at South Korea's foreign ministry says the chances of the Cuban amendment replacing the original version is below 10%. Now, the original resolution has the support of around 50 nations, including the European Union member nations, the US, Japan, and South Korea. The resolution has no binding power, but if adopted, would certainly help press the UN Security Council to address North Korea's human rights abuses more strongly and perhaps spur them to push for a referral of the regime to the ICC. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
Hyundai Group chairwoman Kim Jong-un got back from her one-day trip to North Korea this afternoon after attending a ceremony on this Tuesday. The event was held to commemorate the 16th anniversary of the inter-Korean Mount Kumgang tourism project. Upon her arrival, she told reporters that she, along with dozens of North Korean officials, had shouted out slogans wishing for the resumption of tours to Mount Kumgang. She then went on to say that as a South Korean operator, Hyundai would do everything it could to make that happen. A more than 6-year suspension of the project is said to have caused the group some $850 million in losses. Tours began exactly 16 years ago today, but came to a halt in the year 2008 after a South Korean tourist was shot dead by a North Korean soldier at the location.
A one-day entry ban.
Digging deeper, getting to the bottom of stories that impact your life. Talking with you on air and online. Connecting you with experts on the world's most pressing issues. News and current affairs at its best. With Na Hyung-kyung and Daniel Che.
Arirang News.
Arirang News.
Arirang News.
On Early Edition at 6.
Now, with Japan's economy falling into recession, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe will likely call for a snap election to push ahead with his economic and political agendas. That's what some Japanese media outlets are predicting. Our Song Ji-sun has the details.
Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is facing the most serious political crisis since he took office nearly 2 years ago with a pledge to revive the economy. The toll from April's sales tax hike from 5% to 8% was high and immediate. The Japanese economy contracted for 2 consecutive quarters, smacking of a recession that followed a consumption tax hike in the late 1990s. Abe is reported to be seeking a delay in the scheduled second sales tax increase, given the very uncertain growth prospects in Japan and the rest of the world. Under the current plan, taxes on all goods and services will rise to 10% starting in October next year. Japanese media outlets are reporting that Abe will announce a delay in the second tax increase by a year and a half and call a snap general election in mid-December to renew his mandate to govern. The lower house is expected to be dissolved as early as Wednesday. An election is not technically necessary to modify the tax plan, as Abe's Liberal Democratic Party is in firm control of both houses of the national legislature, but the Prime Minister is more likely seeking a fresh endorsement of his Abenomics platform and his other policies. Abe also aims to restart the nation's nuclear power plants, all of which have been offline since last year, and proceed with legislation to expand the role of Japan's military, following his decision to reinterpret Japan's pacifist constitution. 송지선, Arirang News.
And in other news, America's top diplomat says Islamic State militant groups are wrong to think that the U.S. is intimidated by their actions. Now, this as efforts to identify Western individuals shown to be killing captured prisoners in another propaganda video continue. Connie Lee has this report.
U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry had some strong words for Islamic State militants.
Well, let us be clear. We are not intimidated. You are not intimidated. Our friends and partners are not intimidated. ISIL is very, very wrong.
The statement at a Washington Foreign Policy Forum on Monday comes a day after the White House confirmed the terrorist group beheaded another American, this time 26-year-old aid worker Peter Kasig. Kasig's parents also spoke out on Monday and asked for privacy as they take time to mourn, forgive, and heal.
Our hearts are battered, but they will mend. The world is broken, but it will be healed in the end. And good will prevail, as the one God of many names will prevail.
Meanwhile, Western intelligence officials are now trying to identify the foreign jihadists seen in the latest propaganda video. The video, which also shows the beheading of 18 Syrian prisoners, differs from other videos previously released by IS. This one clearly shows the faces of the fighters and reveals how the group has attracted a good number of foreigners from around the world. It's believed that British and French nationals are among the militants seen killing the captured soldiers. British intelligence officials are looking into 2 British men, with one being 20-year-old Nasser Mouthana, while French officials have identified one of the militants as 22-year-old Maxime Hauchard. According to a human rights monitoring group, IS militants have executed nearly 1,500 people in Syria over the last 5 months. Connie Lee, Arirang News.
Now, a surgeon who was transferred to the U.S. from Sierra Leone for Ebola treatment has passed away. Dr. Martin Celia was undergoing treatment at the University of Nebraska Medical Center, which included a blood plasma transfusion from an Ebola survivor, as well as the experimental drug Z-MAP, which the manufacturer provided. Hospital officials said the 44-year-old was already 13 days into the disease and was in critical condition when he arrived on Saturday. He is the 10th Ebola patient to be treated and the second to succumb to the disease on American soil.
Protesters took to the streets of Kenya's capital, Nairobi, on Monday in support of women's rights. This comes after a woman was attacked in broad daylight last week for no other apparent reason than wearing a miniskirt. Our Kim Min-ji has more.
Hundreds of people have taken to the streets of Nairobi with a message: the women have the right to wear what they want. Monday's rally was in response to an attack on a woman last week by a group of men who assaulted and stripped her naked for wearing a miniskirt. Protesters, many in miniskirts or crop tops, chanted "My dress, my choice," calling for an end to violence against women.
This is a journey of liberation. It's not just about dressing. It's about liberation of women from oppression.
The assault in Nairobi is hardly an isolated incident. Similar attacks on women for dressing indecently have also taken place in other Kenyan cities like Nakuru and Mombasa.
Arrest those people, they're criminals. any person who touched that woman should be arrested and charged for sexual offenses. That was sexual assault.
Some, however, voiced opposition to the protest, saying women should be more responsible for what they wear.
Boys has got responsibility. You cannot go dressing anyhow, doing whatever you do. We have to be responsible as women. No. You can't show us your battles.
Kenya's deputy president has condemned the attack as barbaric and called for those that carried it out to be arrested. But there are doubts about a breakthrough in the conservative country where sex crimes are rarely punished. Kim Jong-un, Arirang News.
Moving on to other stories, Pope Francis has revealed that he will make his first trip to the United States next year with a stop at a triennial conference in the U.S. state of Pennsylvania. The World Meeting of Families, which celebrates the importance of families, takes place in Philadelphia in September 2015. The city's mayor called it a joyous day, saying the visit will mark Philadelphia's largest event in its modern history. It will be Philly's second papal visit after Pope John Paul II celebrated Mass in the city back in 1979.
A hurdle often stated for the full commercialization of electric vehicles, as you might know, is battery technology. But a team of Korean researchers may have inched closer to overcoming that hurdle with a new type of battery. Kim Ji-yeon tells us more.
A group of Korean researchers has developed lithium-ion batteries that charge 7 times faster than conventional ones. A team of researchers from the Department of Chemical Engineering at Pohang University of Science and Technology made the batteries by exploiting inorganic materials such as silica and titanium. This is different from the traditional method of lining up various templates of colloidal crystals and Black Hawk polymers consecutively, which requires more time and effort. The team says the method also provides a better alternative for the way we synthesize materials and could bring about changes in the way we store energy in the future due to its fast delivery of electrolytes and ions from its complex porous structures. The research team says it's now working on applying their academic findings in the real world and expects to commercialize the technology in 5 years. In the meantime, the post-tech research team is eyeing ways to increase the synthetic scale of its finding for mass production. Their work was first published in the Journal of the American Chemical Society last month. Kim Jong-un, Arirang News.
A local research lab and one particular industry have found a way to secure a new source of profit. The production period of this project is said to be relatively short and the applications numerous. Polly tells us all about it.
This laboratory develops clinical medicines derived from organic materials. Scientists here trying to create functional materials that are good for the body using components extracted from medicinal herbs. Their ultimate goal is to develop new types of medicines, but 30% of the experimental substances they create end up being used as ingredients for new cosmetics. Not only does this keep the products from going to waste, but it's a boon for the lab. Compared to medicines and other health-related products, cosmetics can be made in a relatively short period of time and have several applications.
Cosmetics bring greater rewards and have more growth potential than medicinal products as they take less time to develop.
The lab developed a functional material that was distributed to 10 local mid-sized firms, which produced sales of $21 million last year alone. And sales are expected to grow 13% this year. Korean cosmetics and skincare products have been drawing attention worldwide for their high quality and power to improve the appearance, with a number of Korean cosmetic brands having entered the Chinese market.
We want to promote the high quality and function of Korean cosmetics by allowing Chinese customers to experience and use the products firsthand.
These days, many local mid-sized companies are benefiting from the transformation of functional substances into cosmetics, allowing the companies to expand their business around Korea and beyond. Paul Yi, Arirang News.
Punishing winter here in Korea is no time for you to be spending outdoors. And if you're one of those people opting to stay indoors for your daily dose of entertainment because of the cold weather, well, you're in luck. Our Im Yoon-hee has a few performances heating up stages here in Seoul. Let's take a look.
After a much-anticipated wait, Korea is now staging the popular musical, Marie Antoinette. The musical tells a story of the infamous queen. At the time, Marie Antoinette's life gets entangled with that of a poor woman, and when the two lives collide, the drama begins to unravel, ultimately leading to the guillotine. The musical is critically acclaimed around the world, and now with a Korean cast, Marie Antoinette's story unfolds once again.
I think that many people will be sympathetic because of the inavailability of the foolish human nature.
A story of friendship, love, and secrets. Two bodyguards for South Korea's presidential office form an unlikely friendship and rivalry. The two are assigned to protect a mysterious woman, and when one friend disappears with her, the other is left in the dark for over 20 years. Then, an incident of déjà vu and the secrets start to show. The musical The Days mixes action, suspense, and a little love on the stage, and is back for another successful run.
I really like the songs written by Kim Jong-un. I always like these songs, but I especially liked Through I Loved You, and want to somehow portray and honor that song on stage.
From romance to carefree days in the sun, the hot months of summer are a time for many to enjoy. And now those fun times come alive on the stage through the play A Hot Summer. It's a place where anyone's dreams come alive, but also a story that brings back sentimental feelings of summers of the past. It may be cold outside, but this play is sure to warm things up. Im Yoon-hee, Arirang News.
Moving on to other stories, dozens of digital content creators and professionals from across the globe have gathered here in Seoul.
They are here to exchange the newest ideas for the digital content industry. Our Park Ji-won met with some of them and files this report.
Chung Sung-ha is a young Korean guitarist with several albums and global concerts under his belt, working with various international stars like Jace Mraz. His rise to fame began with a simple video uploaded to YouTube, and now Chung has nearly 3 million subscribers. Yang Ting followed a similar path. As a young female gamer, she creates diverse video sharing contents, mostly broadcasts of games, and has over 1 million YouTube subscribers. They are just a couple examples of the new wave of creators. YouTube Content Operations Director Dave Powell says now is the golden time for individuals to create contents because of the diversity of new media platforms.
Here in Korea, YouTube creators are heralding the one-person startup economy. Fans in Korea and globally are responding. So 25% of our fastest growing channels with international subscribers are endemic or native creators on YouTube. 70% of our fastest growing channels with local or Korean subscribers are created by endemic creators.
Digital technology is affecting more conventional media like television as well. A producer of the U.S. hit program House of Cards says the drama has benefited from big data, which is being used to analyze viewer preferences. However, Hips added that in the end, it's universal themes that capture the attention of viewers, not the technology itself.
Each American network knows their audience and uses tons of research and tons of big data to kind of go in about what makes a show. You can have all the big data you want, but if the artists and the idea isn't something special, then distribution or big data doesn't really matter. It really has to start with the creative first.
This year's International Content Conference has invited guests from all around the world to discuss the latest trends of the industry, from digital technology platforms to big data analysis, and how the technology is changing the nature of the contents they create. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Well, these are the stories we could squeeze into this hour. Thank you for staying with us. If you're tuning in from different time zones, have a wonderful day. This has been Daniel Chen.
And I'm Na Hyun-kyung. If you are tuning in from Korea, have a great evening. Daniel and I will be back tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.